So
Good,
sweet. Yeah,
bro.
we're off and running. So, Mike, thank you so much for doing this. It's such an honor to
My
meet you.
pleasure. My pleasure, bro. Thanks
Yeah.
for asking.
Yeah, of course, man. We're so. I hope you know that we're creating a buzz over here. At least me and Karl are for the next week's concert. So.
Definitely.
Oh, good, bro.
I can let you know, Mike, that my students have been like diving into your repertoire. I see it. They're doing their own recitals at SDSU, and I just see your tunes coming up everywhere.
Oh wow, how sweet! That's means a lot to me. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I was telling Karl, Mike, that one of the first, when I was first getting into jazz, one of the first records of yours that I got was it was actually a CD, and I got "Who Let the Cats Out,"
Oh wow.
which I still have up in my CD collection. But I just thought it was kind of I thought it was an interesting record to kind of find you on, and then of course I kind of went back and kind of found all the other stuff. But yeah, there's a couple moments in me finding music, kind of finding some weird starting points. I guess really in the middle is what I mean, of just like historically. So it's like one of the first I think records I heard of Miles was Bitches Brew, which just was totally blew my mind trying to get into jazz. So it was kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that was an amazing record, of course. Bitches Brew, that was incredible. I remember Lenny told me, Lenny White, he said, he played on the Miles got him to play, and he was a young cat. And Miles, he's on that record. And then when the record came out, he went to the record store, and they were just closing or something like that. And he said he banged on the window, and he couldn't get in. He said, "Can you show me that record? Can you turn it around?" And his name was like first on the credits, something like that. He was so proud. Wow.
That's really cool. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean, there's so many. Something that I was talking with Karl about before. Something that's so unique about you is, for me, I feel like you're such in the middle of like the old world of jazz and the new world, and it's like you and Schofield and Metheny. I'm a guitar player, so I see. It's so cool to see how you're in the middle of this wide history that we call jazz. And I'm just curious, what was it like when that was happening? Did you realize where the music had come from and kind of where it was going? Of course, you were learning.
No, I just did what I did,
of course.
And just because I was, I guess, born in a certain time, and also got originally into Hendrix and was listening to a lot of blues players,
of course,
B.B. King and Albert King and all those cats, and listened to a lot of. I grew up in Washington D.C., so there's a lot of soul music on the radio, and so I play along with that, and so that just became part of my playing that I never kind of got rid of as I got totally into jazz. I didn't. I just kind of tried to figure out a way to put those influences in my playing and in my writing, and it just kind of happened naturally.
Yeah.
So I didn't really think about it.
No, that's great. I mean? So it's very organic.
Yeah, exactly.
Mike, I'm curious then who your first touch points were for jazz.
I guess Wes, of course, and Jim Hall, but before then, it was just whoever, kind of the music was not necessarily the guitar that I was into, because my mom used to play a lot of jazz records around the house, and most of it was piano. Or had piano, and then there was some Herbie Hancock, and there was some Abe Brubeck, and there was some different kind of things that she would play, some Miles, and with earlier Miles. I mean, he was playing just straight ahead, no guitar, and so I was kind of, I guess at first, just drawn to that. I remember I was basically playing by ear at that point, and just playing along with kind of more or less diatonic records, that were more or less in the same key.
Of course.
And then I got more into jazz, and took some of those records up to my room to try to play along, and I got lost in about 2 seconds. So then I realized that, I never felt that it's better or worse. Whatever gets your heart is what you love. So sometimes the simplest stuff just gets me, or sometimes more intricate stuff gets me. But I thought the language of bebop and jazz was kind of more intricate, and I needed to kind of get into that. So, and I really wanted to. So that's when I started studying more, and learning how to read and all that fun stuff, which was a complete pain in the ass. And then, and anytime you learn something new, it's a struggle, but it's worth it. You get so much out of it. So I'm constantly trying to.
Did you?
Excuse me. Is it transcribing?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask. Did you do
a lot of transcribing, and over the years, first guitarists like Joe Pass was a good one for me to transcribe some on this record called Intercontinental. And in those days, I was transcribing from a record, and sometimes I would, you would put the record so it would go half speed, so you could catch the licks. So the things were like boo 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 instead of you know what I mean?
Right.
Full speed. So it's kind of difficult, especially when I started transcribing like saxophone players, because it was real low, and some of the notes just. But sometimes the only way you could do it, but of course nowadays they've got all this. Cool technology. It slows down and it stays the same pitch, so and same octave and everything. So, I did a lot of that. That really helped me.
You just do that by ear and then playing it, or did you actually write it on paper?
I write it on paper. Everything, the whole solo usually. So I got a whole bunch of transcriptions of different people, mainly horn players. After a while, I started with guitar players and did Jim Hall and Wes and all that stuff, and I still do that some, but mainly horn players, other instruments other than the guitar, because I like to try to get that kind of vocal sound on the guitar. That's kind of how I use effects a little bit to get me that, and also stereo, so it doesn't just come out of one little space, but it's like a horn where you hear the horn and it just kind of goes everywhere in the room. You know what I mean? As soon as so I try to get that same sensibility, and also I kind of pick lighter, so that kind of helps. So it's not too much picking sound when I'm playing. There's a certain kind of, I want it to be more legato. Of course, sometimes I want it to dig in, so I'll pick more. And that's always a challenge, that kind of stuff. But it became much more of a challenge when I had this injury to my hand, which was, this nerve damage, caused nerve damage. So now I found a way to play with glue. I mean, I had to have a lot of surgeries, but with a great doctor, I finally found. But I have to use glue to hold the pick.
I saw that.
It's actually wig glue. It's actually the glue that Donald Trump uses to put his hair on. That's what I use. I've put a little tape around a pick, and it worked. It doesn't hurt your skin, but it's real sticky. Yeah. So.
Wow, that's very inspiring, man.
You do what you can, do what you can. You got to keep going if you love it enough.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I think what you're saying about transcribing, I think it kind of resonates with my generation a bit, because it's like you said, it's so easy to go on YouTube and do half speed and it's all at pitch. It's no big deal. And it's like, I feel, you can go on YouTube, you can find transcriptions, you can go on Google, you can type in anything, and for the most part, you can somewhat find it. But there's something to be said about kind of that old school way of learning music, which I find fascinating, and especially for some of my teaching, it seems like the best, the way that trying to explain jazz and trying to really learn how to play, even just personally for me, I have found that, going back and really hearing all this stuff for real, like truly hearing it, is really what sets you free. And I think by transcribing, like you're saying, I mean, you're literally finding out what these guys were saying in terms of soloing and playing and just, comping, whatever it is.
Totally.
So I think that's.
I mean, there's no other way, and of course playing
Of course.
It's the way you learn any language, I think. Well, music is definitely a language. And the way you learn French, if you don't know French, you go to school sometimes, or you have a teacher or something, and you learn a certain amount in school, but eventually you have to go and make a lot of mistakes. You go to France and you get your ass kicked. You make a whole lot of mistakes, but you listen to people that are more fluent than you.
Of course.
And you try to, and eventually you assimilate it, in a realistic way. That's basically the same with music. But transcribing has always been a really great, it's great for ear training. It's great for just writing, rhythms that you might, kind of learn. So it's great for your reading also. By writing it out, you have to. That's why I like to write it, and also by writing it, it's such a pain in the ass. You actually absorb more, I think. Than just playing along with a record or playing, which is all cool. I mean, some people just do it that way. They just listen, and I don't think Miles did too much transcribing, but he listened a lot, and he would cop things and cop stuff from different players and that kind of stuff. But it sure has helped me big time.
And you were I watched some of your interview with Micah Moreno, which was great. And I thought it was great how you guys were joking about you transcribing him, which you really did do. And then when he realized it, he was like, well, look at this guy.
Yeah. Oh, no, I learned from everybody.
Which is so cool.
Because there's so many great ideas out there. I mean, I just did some teaching at this school in South Carolina. It was high school kids, and some of them were just badass, and even the ones that were just learning, I got some stuff from. I just kind of remembered where I was at that point, and also I just sometimes they would play stuff, and I would say, well, that's just a natural. Whatever he heard, that was a cool line.
Right.
You know what I mean? And,
so do you still transcribe?
Yeah, I still do it. And, I'm transcribing some McCoy Tyner now. And, different people. So just this and that. And just to keep it, it just does something for me in terms of not a whole lot. You don't have to do a whole lot. You could do a couple bars a day kind of thing. You know what I mean? Or you could do the whole transcription in a day. But usually I'll do, just a little bit. And of course, listen, it makes you kind of listen in a certain way, of course, and a little bit more intently. And then, of course, I just listen to the whole thing, and so listening and actually, I mean, that's really at the end of the day, you learn everything you possibly can theoretically and all that stuff, because all of that is amazing and it's endless. I mean, I feel like after all these years, I don't know shit, but because the universe of music gets bigger, the more you learn, the more questions you have about something else, and it's just it's infinite.
Right.
But it's an amazing journey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the more it seems like it's like kind of, I like the analogy of kind of watering the flowers. You gotta do that to keep the stuff going. So you practice or transcribe or something, put some energy into it, and you keep the love affair going with whatever your instrument is, or if you're a vocalist, your vocal cords. You just it's just how that works. And I think music can be a friend for life, and a good friend. The more you put into it, it's really kind of a wonderful experience. So, and that's the guarantee. Sometimes gigs are hard to find, all that stuff, but you'll have music forever if you can put a certain amount of time into it. Every day, every other day, whatever.
And at the end of the day, that's kind of why you first found it and fell in love with it to begin with.
Totally, exactly. I didn't have any preconceived. I thought maybe I could teach. That's all I thought would happen for me, and I would have been fine with that. I was just like learning everything I could to teach, because I think it's great. I teach now, and it's great. I dig it, and it's and so if that was all that would happen, and maybe an occasional gig, I was cool with that.
Yeah.
And then some other stuff happened. It was just kind of luck of the draw, Yeah.
So you were talking about some of your influences. My whole channel is called ElectricLouieLand, and it's really inspired by ElectricLouieLand, the Hendrix album, of course.
Yeah.
So, you're speaking to my heart right there when you're saying you were listening to some blues and listening to some Hendrix and stuff growing up before you found jazz, which is totally how I found jazz, because something about it I could just tell. It reminded me of Hendrix in the sense that these guys seem like they know what they're doing, and you could tell they're just soloing, and it's like, how do you do that? You know what I mean? So
right, exactly.
Maybe you could talk more about your beginnings of playing guitar, finding guitar, and then maybe how, there's a lot of students that might listen to this that are trying to kind of get into the scene, trying to get gigs or just start their career. What's maybe some pointers that you maybe did on your own? I know it's a different time now with the internet and all, but I'm sure there's some crossover.
Sure. I mean, for me, first of all, getting into the guitar, it was just, like I said, it was mainly playing along with records, but easier records, mainly rock and blues. So it was basically in one key. Mm-hmm. And I actually kind of took a couple of guitar lessons, and then the rest of it, at that point, I was just going to do it by myself until I got more serious about jazz. Mm. And I was kind of in a rut anyway, so I wanted to learn some new stuff. So I said, let me try to play along with some of these jazz records. And that's what I realized I needed to study more if I really wanted to try to learn that. And I wanted to do that anyway. So, I started taking more lessons. Then I went to Berkeley, all that stuff. But I'm, so wherever you start, if you start with jazz or you start with something else, it's all good. I think, for me, I'm sure glad, even if that wasn't my main, it did become my main, priority. I think of myself as a jazz musician, even though there's rock and the elements of rock and all that stuff. It's still the basic core of what I dig and what I listen to. And so, but whatever you wind up doing, it's great to get into some of the intricacy of bebop, for instance, really, really great. And most of the time you fall in love with it. The more you understand it, the more you can play it, But, and then the second part of the question, I forgot already what that was.
Oh, I mean, it's more about, I was just kind of curious maybe how you started playing more gigs, how you started kind of
career. So then I went to jam sessions and just met people at Berkeley and some and then hooked up with different people, just the same way people do now. I guess you do somewhat with the internet. It's definitely changed because people want to see stuff so much as well as hear it, which is kind of a little weird to me, but you got to go with whatever.
Right.
And it hasn't fundamentally changed. It's basically you got to I was very shy about doing gigs. I thought I couldn't play. I still get kind of way overly critical sometimes of myself, and that's not. It's good to be critical, but not overly critical. Not where you talk yourself out of, trying things.
Right.
So that kind of was a problem for me, but I tried to push past it as much as I could, got over it and just tried to meet people and play and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's great.
And jam sessions and stuff, and then just let people know you're looking for a gig or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I mean, you kind of nailed it. That's kind of what I was hoping you were going to say.
Yeah, the main thing is to get over what some people just are shy about. That's the hardest part, and I'm really in that. I'm in that category. I had to push myself because
it's great. It's great to hear that just coming from someone like you, because I feel like a lot of people might listen to this that me and Karl kind of tell them all the time, you guys need to go out and go to hit the sessions and really practice all this stuff that we're talking about and practice these tunes. And, you're going to have to go bomb at some points, like,
right. Exactly.
And so it's
Charlie Parker did that.
Well, yeah, that's my favorite folklore of the whole. Yeah. I mean, that's where it all starts. So that's, I mean, I love it. I was hoping you were going to say something like that just for some of the people listening that may be able to resonate with that. So.
Oh, good. Well, I hope my experience, can help somebody else. And the main thing is just do all those things that you got to do and kind of you got to push yourself to try to do that. Like anything else, when you learn something or when you try something new, or especially when other people are there and you got these voices in your brain saying, "Oh, that guy's gonna say it sucks," and sometimes, the first gig I played, I was so scared I didn't want to. It was around Berkeley. There was this place that people were playing at Berkeley College Music, right? There were some people. At that point, it wasn't even a college. It was just Berkeley Music School when I was going there, and they hadn't been accredited yet. So it was
Matheny already there at that time?
Yeah, he was there.
Okay.
He was there. He was teaching there. I studied with him a little bit, but we basically just ended up playing. I don't know. He liked my playing. I was still totally down about my playing. He's one of the guys that said, you got to push past that, because I said, look, I don't want anybody to know I'm playing at this little place, and I was so scared to do it. And he said, you just got to get past that.
Wow.
You got to figure out a way to get past that. That's all he said.
That's so cool.
It's however you do it, you got to get past that, because, so you got to let people know you're playing and you got a gig, and you just do the best you can. And so I went there and I played, and there was like 3 people in the audience. I think the people in the audience outnumbered the band. And I was so nervous. My pick, I was dropping it left and right. That was like one of my first jazz experiences. So
you needed the glue back then.
And so it was kind of a total drag. We didn't even play the second set. I remember the club owner said, "Well, we may as well just wind it up." So whoop-de-doo, the world of jazz. Wow. And then I did it again, and it got better. And then the third time it got worse. And then the fourth time it started getting progressively better, and that kind of thing. So I figured I got nothing to lose, so you just keep trying.
Yeah, I love it.
And that's how it goes sometimes. It's one of those things. So
that's life, man. Yeah. I get you.
That's life. Exactly. This could be applied to anything really in life. And but it's all real, and it's all doable. Really doable, and definitely worth it, I would say.
So, you mentioned being around, taking lessons with Matheny. What was it like being around that time with so many other guitar players? How did you find your niche so well?
It was great. I mean, especially Pat was amazing. Just at that time, and he was a couple of years younger than me, and I was studying with him, and just we just play. He would bring in some of his tunes, and we'd play those, and kind of, and he would just mention some stuff. But he was a really good teacher, really caring, and really good teacher, and I took some lessons from him. Then I took a year off. I was playing this rock band in Washington, D.C., and then I came back to Berkeley, and then had more lessons with him. And then he actually recommended me to Bobby Colomby to go and audition for Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Oh.
And lo and behold, I got the gig, which I never thought I would get the gig, because there was a whole bunch of other guitar players auditioning. And I guess they liked the fact that I was rocking a little bit. Also, I had that in my playing, that I could rock some, and so that kind of helped. And nowadays, that's kind of normal for guitar players to do that, even if it's not their primary, what they want to do.
Right.
When I was coming up, it was kind of a bit innovative to do that.
Wow, yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
So there were some people doing it, McLaughlin and other people, but it was just. It was, what I mean? It was not a regular thing, and I think I had more of a real rock sense than because I really listened to Hendrix and Jimmy Page and some of those cats.
Yeah, you're talking my language, man. I love it.
So anyway, that was great. I was studying with him and playing. And there's a ton of guitar players now up there and everywhere. It's a very popular instrument all over the planet. So, but I love it. And also whatever instrument. I mean, I love the saxophone. Like I love, playing with sax players or trumpet players or horn, any kind of horn player, because it's got such a breathy sound. It's really, you can hear that, the air. And guitar, you got to work to.
You normally
tour
with a sax player, right? Is that
part of
your normal setup?
Absolutely. I love that. And saxophone or trumpet, me and Randy play some record when I can get him. He's phenomenal, of course. And so different cats, on Who Let the Cats Out on that record, Roy Hargrove.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
I miss him. Yeah, I miss him. But anyway, man. Hey, man, I got to run right now because I'm realizing I'm late for something.
Well, no worries, man.
I just wanted to
thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate you so much, and I look forward to meeting you in person this week.
Absolutely, bro. Thank you, guys. Thank you. And I'm so happy to be able to come there. I don't do much big band stuff. I've done some and I've recorded some. There's this Danish radio big band with me. That's a record that's out there that we did. And so and some of those charts, I guess, are from there, So I didn't do them. I can't write big band charts. I wish I could. That's something I really wish, Karl, I got to talk to you about that. Because I like to kind of delve into that. Talk about scared. I'm really scared of doing that. But anyway, that's something I really respect. So anyway,
thank you, Mike.
It's really a privilege to come out there, and I'm really looking forward to it.
So are we.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, bros. See you soon.
See you, Mike.
Okay, man. Bye.
Bye.